here we are back for episode 2 of Let's Get Real, Canadian Perspectives on Fundraising. It's good to see you guys. How are you, Ed, Ken?
Well, so far so good. The fall has turned out to be quite nice. I just was in Quebec City for a conference from one of our clients, and I hadn't been there in a long time. I was there when I was 13.
Oh.
And I was saying last time for the Quebec Pee Wee Carnival hockey tournament was the last time I was there. And when you're 13, I think Quebec City is kind of not that soon.
No.
But now, I tell you, it was fantastic.
It's a great city. A great
city. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I got lucky. I was just there. What about you, Ken? What's been happening with you?
At my age, it's mostly health related, which means I've got, appointment after appointment after appointment. But I'm having a good day. So when you get older, having a good day physically is a real plus.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling good. You got me on a good day.
Yeah.
And we're all
not feeling that.
Lisa's got a very bad cold, which she can talk about. And Janice and I are off to Nova Scotia on Monday.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We're going to do Cape Breton.
Yeah.
We've done it once, but we did it quickly, the Cabot Trail, and we did it in the fog. So we're going to do it slowly and enjoy a whole week there. So.
Yeah. That's amazing. I don't know if you know, Ken, but I just came back from a 3-week tour of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. So we passed through Cape Breton. Obviously, that was how we got the ferry, and it's just so beautiful. Like you feel in touch with your Canadian nature roots when you're out there. It's just lovely, and I hope you have the kind of weather we had, because we only had 1 day of fog, and it was brilliant.
Well, we're looking forward to it.
So.
Yeah, amazing. And as you mentioned, yes, health has not been on the docket for me this past week, so bear with me. I'm a little throatier than usual, but hopefully I'll still be able to speak up when needed during our chat today.
Yeah.
And speaking of our chat, we've got kind of 3 very different things I think we're going to be talking about. And, I love me a narrative. I love me a through topic or a theme. We'll see by the end of it if we feel like we get there or not. But I'll just say what we've got in store today. Ken's going to lead off with talking about AI, very topical. So interested to hear what's on Ken's mind about this. I want to talk a little bit about coaching and mentoring, something that I think is probably one of the most important things leaders can do in this sector to help us achieve success. And then after a break, we're going to come back and Ed's going to lead us off with talking about influencers and social media and what that means about the sharing of knowledge and how that is impacting our sector right now. So that's a lot, guys, that we're going to cover. So
we'll move quickly. We'll be grumpy in a quick way.
Grumpy in a quick way.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, we'll see how we do in. So we're gonna dive in. Let's go. Starting with you, Ken.
Yeah.
What are we talking about with AI? What you're not the typical generation who wants to tackle this topic, I don't think.
Oh, we want to tackle it, but we don't understand it. So no, I've been witnessing it in my life and others, and also in fundraising. But there was a trigger point. It's AI I want to talk about, but also technology that broadens into technology, right? And what's its place in the fundraising profession, really? And I think it's a very important topic for us to think about. And what triggered me was this.
Yes.
Okay, which was Blackbaud's research.
Yeah,
it's backwards.
It's backwards. Hold on, but that's
Yeah,
okay. We know what you mean by it.
Okay, I'll read it out. Okay, it's the status of Canadian fundraising 2025. So the title claims it's the status of fundraising, all fundraising,
Yeah.
right? Now,
Yeah.
Blackbaud is a data management company, and so it's going to have that focus. But there's a subtitle here, and the subtitle is a benchmarking report for the AI era. Okay, so they're claiming that we're in the AI era in Canadian fundraising, right? And I think that's important because last session we talked, or at least I talked about who's the voice for fundraising. Well, here's someone claiming to be the voice for fundraising. So there were two key I mean, it's 30 pages long. Two key findings that they brought out. One is, and they surveyed, I don't know, 150, 200 charities in Canada. The first finding was revenue is declining. Okay, we knew this already.
Yes, that's not revolutionary.
No, not at all. But that it kind of reinforces a lot of things. It's the second point they made, and then they went on and really developed this point through the whole research project. And that was digital maturity is the key to success in fundraising. So let me say that again, because I'd never heard of the phrase digital maturity.
Mm-hmm.
So they've claimed that, but they're saying it's the key for success, right? Then they asked a question, which was, what would bring the biggest value to your organization? What's the key thing to do for your organization as a fundraising enterprise, right? And the top two answers were improved data management,
Mm-hmm.
and number two, integrated technology.
Okay.
So here it's being presented as an effort to turn around this trend of declining revenue. Now I want to tell you a story, right? And it's about a hospital. And this hospital, and it's about their plan giving program because I got an inside look at that. And it's totally run by technology marketing. And by the way, technology mostly has its application in marketing, which is communications and presenting things to prospective donors and that sort of thing. So, and they had their whole plan giving program, and this is not unusual, is two things. One was the automated email program of MarketSmart. MarketSmart, a U.S. company, they no longer, as I understand it, are accepting new clients in Canada, but a lot of, especially larger charities, have used them, and it's a barrage of emails to trigger response. And they marry that up with willpower, CAGP's willpower,
Mm-hmm.
which they use then to cultivate. Okay, that's not unusual. In fact, this is a very sophisticated fundraising organization. And they say that there is their plan giving program. Now, I know someone who went in as a maternity fill-in, mat leave fill-in. And this person was a good fundraiser, well-trained. And she found out that they had 965 or so leads, people who said, hey, I'm interested in that or whatever. And they were getting this willpower stuff, which is a barrage of why you should put a charity in the will. And what she did is she picked up the phone and started to talk to people, right? And they had a goal, I won't tell you what the goal was, of so many gift confirmations in a year, and it was ridiculously low goal, in my opinion. And in 3 months, she achieved the goal. Not the year, 3 months. Probably estimated at $15 to $20 million or something like that, because she picked up the phone, right? And then the mat leave was over. She left, and now no one's picking up the phone, right? And I spoke to one of the principals of marketing, Market Smart, and they said their biggest problem throughout Canada and the US is everyone creates leads, but no one will pick up the phone and deal human being to human being, right? So that's when we rely too heavily on technology, it's I think we're missing the essence of fundraising. Okay, let's turn to AI, because what is AI? Well, it's really a compilation of data points, if you really think about it. And I always say, and I've used AI, ChatGPT, and what you get is always, it's extremely worthwhile in some applications. But if you just put it out there, right, you're going to get what I will call the average, because you're pulling from all sources, and it doesn't discern what's a good source or not a good source necessarily. So, but I know fundraisers are using AI more and more to design their communications. And now I tell another story. Another fundraiser came to me, and she had used ChatGPT to write a fundraising solicitation letter, right? And it was well laid out and that. And she uses it to rewrite and re-edit her work, which is a good use. But I started to read this solicitation letter. And it started, as you would figure, talking about the mission of the organization. I read the first paragraph, and I gave it back to her. I said, there's nothing about the prospective donor in that first paragraph. And the first thing you have to do, because people will give you 10 seconds of reading time, and then if it doesn't grab them, they won't read it. You have to speak to them. And it's the more personal, and it has to relate to the mission, yes. So that's just a basic, to me, a basic principle of good communication in fundraising. And AI had not done that. That hadn't made the human being to human being connection. Why? Because they just took the average of lots of solicitation letters. All right. So what you're getting is just kind of mediocrity, I call it. So AI has its advantages, right? It's good at sorting data. It can handle that task well. I've jotted a few down, but and it's good at finding obscure details. I use it for that. If I want to find something obscure, it'll search quickly. What it can't do is it can't do your job. And that's my message today. It can't do the fundraising job, right? How you ask it to do the work is critical. Do you have enough fundraising knowledge to ask the right questions of AI? And we don't, and to anybody, it's not a panacea at all. Otherwise, you're going to descend into mediocrity. There's a larger picture, and then I'll finish. Technology and marketing, which is and they're sidekicks to each other, has become the business of fundraising. And I know large fundraising shops, and they just use technology and or consultants, which we're going to talk about another time, to run their program, right? And they're counting on this, and and I'm saying, and this, by the way, is a huge trend. It's been going on for probably 10 or 15 years. This move towards over marketing, which is simply communication and trying to get a response. And it's taking us away from what I think is the is the essence of fundraising. So the Blackbaud's report, and as I said, Blackbaud is a management data management vendor. I think a report like that exacerbates this trend to over-reliance on technology. So there's a basic fact. Fundraising, to fundraise, you must understand the philanthropic decision. And I always talk about this. The philanthropic decision is totally different. Every other financial decision, and it's been, that is so heavily marketed, generally by the financial institutions, that we think it's common knowledge, right? But behind every financial decision except philanthropy, it's how do I gain more or how do I save more? Those are the rubrics of financial decision making. Philanthropy is exactly the opposite. It's how do I give it away to have the most significant impact on society that I care about. And I'm saying that's a human being to human being discussion. So my complaint with technology.
Here's the grumpy part.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Took a while to get to grumpy, but here he is.
I'm going to summarize my grumpiness. Okay, is AI and technology should be described as the tools you use in fundraising. It's not fundraising, and I think we've taken our eye off the ball here. And I think it's, as I said, fundraising is human being to human being, and we're losing, I believe, those skills. And fundraisers call me all the time, and they don't know what to do with the 960 leads they've got, and they don't know how, right? Revenues are decreasing for the last 10 years, even though we rely more and more on technology/marketing. So I think it's time to get real about this. Understand what AI can do, what it can't do, what technology can do and can't do, and get back to what is real about fundraising.
Nice wrap up, Ken. That's good. Before we go to a break, Ed, do you want to add any?
Yeah, well, I just let me just kind of bring this in a little bit of comment, and then Lisa, I know how much you sort of survey our colleagues in the sector out there, so I'd love to hear from you too. Mm-hmm. I think what AI is playing into, to a great degree, or the notion of AI, it's been there in some form over the 30 plus years I've been working in fundraising, which is, frankly, a magic bullet, an easy to digest pill, some sort of easy thing to get me through the hard stuff, right? And I think what AI is doing is it sounds actually better. It sounds foolproof. It must be fine. It's AI. People are investing in it. So all I need to do is turn this thing on, and it'll do all the work for me. And I think what you're highlighting, Ken, is I think the ramifications of people thinking that way. But I do think it's a human reality as well, and that our colleagues out there are looking for some way to ease the burden of doing the work that you're just talking about, right? 900, whatever the number is, individuals have to follow through with, how do I do that? I can't even do that. And then suddenly Blackbaud or some other organization, and by the way, over the 30 years I've been working at this, there's been lots of organizations that will say, just come to us. Market Smart would be another example, right? Various others. Just use this and it'll all be okay. And we know that that's not the case. There is no magic pill.
Yeah.
For the work that we need to do. And particularly in the short and medium term, picking up the phone, engaging with people is still going to be the way and pathway to your success.
a corollary. Okay. And first of all, I should have qualified that. I'm talking about major gifts and planned gifts, like
Yeah.
larger gifts here. I'm not talking about you use marketing to communicate that. I'm not talking about that. The corollary is the senior leadership in our industry, which is another topic for another time. They come more and more from outside the industry. So they read this report and they say, that's just like XYZ industry that I came from.
Yes.
Right. But it's different in philanthropy.
Yeah.
Different
It
in fundraising. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it is different in philanthropy. And I think I have kind of two comments that I'd like to add to this discussion. Because, there's a ton. I mean, we're going to be talking a lot about AI in coming episodes because we have to. And it's just out there. If for no other reason than to kind of help people kind of stay in their lane and not get distracted from some of these kind of core functions that we have to continue to do in fundraising, because it does feel like a bit of a distraction. But actually, in support of what you've said, Ken, and I really align with pretty much everything that you laid out. Was a post that I saw this morning that came from the nonprofit Hive. And, technology has offered us a number of really amazing things. And one of those is the opportunity to connect with communities in perhaps an easier way, and information sharing. And I raise that because I think the nonprofit Hive is kind of one example of that, of a way that fundraisers are connecting with each other. This also ties into mentorship leadership, but again, I don't want to digress too much. But the question that was asked in this blast out by the nonprofit Hive team was, are we as a sector losing depth? And the question they asked was, with everything that demands urgency in our day-to-day, the board meetings, the grant deadlines, the campaigns, the reports that we're producing, there's urgency always driving. And yet, what we've just discussed is that so much of what really matters in nonprofit work requires depth. It requires patience in building relationships. It requires time to sit and listen. And it requires space to kind of reflect on what we hear back before we act. And so, if we are losing this depth, again, this is what the question being posed is: do we start to just skim across the surface of our missions? Do our programs start to feel transactional? Are we chasing numbers? And I think the technological mindset feeds into all of that. It's that idea that you raised, Ed, that it's a way of getting work done faster. It's a way of streamlining things. It's a way of taking shortcuts and still getting results. So I mean, there is this mindset, this competing mindset of being of scarcity, resource scarcity, and that technology is the beacon of hope of dealing with our resource scarcity. But then the conflict is it kind of runs against or counter to that core of what is at the heart of philanthropy and philanthropic discussions and fundraising and all of those things. So it's really funny, I that was a post that really caused me to stop. It gave me pause, because I like the analogy that was created about depth versus skimming the surface. And I think that really ties in and kind of supports what we're talking about. So that's my first kind of thing I'd like to add as thought. And the second thing also, as I think both of you know, I started working in charities. My background has always been journalism, but as many do, I fell into doing communications for charities, including the Terry Fox Foundation, the MS Society, Junior Achievement. And, the thing that was common in all of my experiences, and which I've gone on to see is common with most anyone I know who works in the sector, is a struggle with their CRM model, their client relationship management. And that is where technology started for a lot of charities, was bringing in more sophistication beyond an Excel spreadsheet or beyond handwritten notes in files. And here's the thing, today, however many years on, there is still a lot of folks who still haven't mastered their CRMs. And that is a key part of relationship management, never mind looking for ways to write a letter faster or create a social media campaign. We're talking about basic tools. Again, there's your tool, Ken. Like I also see technology as tools, and a lot of charities can't even seem to wrap their arms around the basics of how to manage their databases and how to work with them. So are we ready to adopt AI? Not by a long shot. I mean, there are a few, there are some individuals who will use it and leverage it. Like there's always early adopters. There will be some charities who see space and opportunity, but my goodness, let's deal with the issues of, you know, our stakeholders, our donors, our partnerships, and make sure we're being accountable for where we're at before we're trying to do more. So
Yeah. And I was just sorry, Ken.
my
I'm gonna
God, I got dragged into the grumpy.
no,
Yeah,
no, you're in a good spot.
No, but
You know, the fact I was just talking to a client today, and they were a little weary for an afternoon meeting. Why? Because they had to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to an event for donors, where donors were coming together in community to talk about the charity and talk about supporting it. And you know, let's get AI to do that. Let's get AI early to get up. It can't be done, right?
Yeah.
To
No.
your point, Lisa, we're a long way off on many different fronts from this. But to Ken's point, the reality is that leaders from the board on down think, oh, AI is here, it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
And the fact is, and again, Ken, for another day, most of those leaders are coming from sectors where AI is not helping them out at all. It's not. It is making it more, it's causing the same issues or providing the same false promises as we're seeing.
yeah. By the way, there is a statistic, and I want to correct you, Lisa. In this research, it says 82% of fundraisers use AI now. And that's up from
82%.
82%. That's up from 67% 1 year ago.
Well, I'm gonna correct that even further. And I'll tell you, it's 100%, because every one of them uses cell phone, and cell phones have AI with it.
Yeah, okay.
So honestly, it's
I know.
well, it's I think it's really important, because I think we're using this reality, this language, that it's some sort of brand new panacea. It's like when Steve Jobs invented the internet or the personal computer from Apple, Steve Jobs of Apple. He didn't do either of those things.
Yeah.
Right. But for some reason, we look back, Bill Gates invented it. No, Bill Gates didn't invent it either. Right. They were around for a while beforehand. What they did was monetize them. And that's the difference that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And and okay, so we'll stop there, but
Yeah,
we could
on
go
that
on.
bombshell,
Yeah.
I will give you that one. Let's take a break.
Okay. Can we take a
we're gonna
break?
shift-
Can I take a break right now? I have to put my oven on. I forgot to set it.
Now's
And I'm
your
cooking
chance.
dinner.
Here's your
Anyone
chance.
who needs to take a break, to set an oven, to answer a quick
Yeah.
text, do it now. We'll be
Okay.
back and continue our
That's
discussion on
4:25.
mentoring
I
and
gotta do
leadership.
baked potato when Janice gets
Go
home.
do. We are back. Ken's oven is on, preparing for
Thank
dinner.
goodness. Thank
And
goodness.
we're going to move on to the next segment. And here was my segment for this week that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And it's about mentorship and leadership. And this is something that we talk a lot about in Hillborn Charity E-News. And this past, it was just this past issue last week, Sandra Baker wrote a really kind of great little kind of hot tips on why it's valuable to coach and be coached. Anyone who wants to read that article can get it at charityinfo.com. Look under Sandra Baker, Coach and Be Coached. I'm not going to read the article to you guys. I think you've already had a look. But look, here's the gist. Here's the gist is that, coaching benefits both the mentor and the mentee, and that there is a very important role for this within our sector. We've had there's been some AFP programs that have kind of formalized some of that kind of coaching idea. We certainly have seen, or I've noticed, that there is an increase in the amount of coaches who are offering their services in the sector. I think this is a result of the fact that our organizations are not investing in their senior leadership sufficiently. And so our senior leaders are looking for other ways to gain their skills and become more professional in how they're conducting business, which is always a win. I started mentoring before I even really realized what I was doing. I have always been open to coffee chats and questions about how did you get where you're going, or what do you find is the best way to do these? I mean, these informal chats, used to happen all the time, and sometimes those would morph into more formalized, regular check-ins, once a month. I've done that with a number of different people throughout my career. So I'm curious, Ken, you were telling us about before we started about a call you had gotten from someone who'd read your book, Empowerment Dialogue. I'm interested to know, okay, here's my question. I'll be specific. Ed and Ken, who was a meaningful mentor in your life, number one? And then number two, how do you kind of give back in that way now? And how do you see that as being important as experienced, we'll say, weathered professionals in our sector? What are you telling people about the need to weigh in as coaches and mentors? Start with you, Ken.
Yeah. Off the top, I'd say Frank Minton. I was just new, maybe 2 years into the profession. And Frank came up from Seattle, and he wanted to see me because he perceived me as the leader in plan giving in Canada. And I had the largest program. We were securing about 600 to 800 new gifts a year, United Church of Canada. So Frank came to me, and Frank taught me the breadth of the industry. And my background was retail marketing, and I'd held senior positions in retail marketing. So I came in and I thought, this is a marketing effort. But Frank taught me the depth of the industry, and he brought someone with him, Betsy Mangoni from the University of Colorado. And Betsy was an accomplished gift planner in the US. And so those two people really defined the business for me. Now, I differed with them in some areas, and I still do, because they're both from universities. But they really influenced me the most, I think. I want to tell a little story here, very short.
Okay, little story.
Yeah, it's very short. I was being recognized for mentoring, actually, and the person who was speaking on behalf of, I think, a CAGP chapter or AFP chapter, I don't know, one or the other, was David Love. And David said, one of the mentors for me was Ken Ramsey, all right? And I questioned that. And I went up to him afterwards. I said, David, I always thought you were mentoring me.
Right. Yeah, I know. He's
Because
been around.
we went along together, right? Which reflects exactly what you said, Lisa. It's a two-way thing.
Yeah, it is. Ed,
Okay.
how about you?
Well, if I look and had to pick one, it would be Dr. Edward Pierce, somebody I look back on. But there have been so many over the years that I've had an opportunities both within our sector and outside of our sector. And so I want to get to some of the things that you were talking about, though, Lisa, which is really, I think, important. One is and I was just having a conversation with an HR lead for a major city well, I'll say it's the city of Toronto. I almost said Toronto twice, so I might as well say it. An HR lead, and they realize from this person's background and experiences that they have left too much of the training, mentorship, that sort of thing, career building to outside forces. Right? They're not doing it internally. And that was something that was shed years ago. And we know it was shed in the fundraising world as well, right? We want fully realized people to come into jobs.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll talk about that specifically. But this person was talking about how they've had to give that up. They've had to actually institute apprenticeship programs within the city to be able to identify potential employees, bring them in and train them how to do things. Now, this is something that would have been done years ago, but somewhere along the line, we outsourced that all to, higher education, colleges, trade schools, that sort of thing. And it's playing itself out, the reality of us doing that in many different ways over the course of the last decade or so. And right now, this is perhaps why we're seeing a dearth of new professionals coming into our sector, other sectors as well. We have to identify this mentorship, and this is, you mentioned it, it's external. And I've mentioned external folks, just like Ken did. But we need internal mentorship. We need people to come in into an organization and feel like there's going to be thoughtful, patient help here, help and mentorship. Because if we don't get that, we will continue to lose people out of our sector. And we're putting the burden on volunteers who actually have their own jobs and their own targets to meet, mortgages to pay, kids to get from one event to another, and various other life experiences. We're leaning on them to mentor, and that's worked to a certain degree, but it needs to be reinforced by organizations investing in their people. Yeah. And I do get it. I mean, what Sandra wrote, the coaching aspect of it, there has been a boom in coaching services out there. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Because you can't get that within organizations. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So we see a lot of stress in our sector, and we actually run support groups for fundraisers who are experiencing stress. And Ken will tell you, when you consult with a fundraiser, most of the interaction you have is like therapy sessions. And
yeah, burnout has become a buzzword.
And we talk all about that, and we mentor within our consulting sessions. We have to. But one of the things that I didn't realize was burnout and stress being driven by the person who was just voluntold that they're going to be the lead on something. And, plan giving is my background as well as Ken's. So we have young people who are, voluntold, hey, you're going to be doing the plan giving role as well as your other things. And then literally the next day, people within the organization will come to them. And even though they have no experience and they've just been they're here because they've been told they need to be here, they will now be asked questions about plan giving. What do you think about plan giving? How can we do this? I have a donor who wants to talk about this. What should I tell them? And they're stressed out because they can't actually answer that question. So the fact of the matter is that what Sandra's talking about, what we've talked about, is that there's burnout. Coaches and mentors can help, absolutely help. But we need organizations to once again invest in their people. And I think that will be helpful. And I know, Lisa, you see this a lot within Charity e-News, this expression of this, the symptom of the lack of coaching. You see it a lot. It's there in the posts of Charity e-News all the time.
All the time. And when I started as editor, we were still coming out of COVID. There was a lot of post-COVID conversation, and I thought that a lot of those discussions around mental wellness, around burnout, were as a result of COVID. I thought that, and I thought that as the further we got out of COVID, that kind of arc of discussion would kind of die down. But what it did was it morphed. So the discussion about mental wellness, about balance, about still managing burnout didn't go away, actually. But what it did was it kind of transformed into this kind of parallel discussion around the need for coaching and mentoring, the need for kind of succession planning in organizations, for creating career paths and bringing along young fundraisers and succession planning. Like, it just dovetailed into all of these other things, and it's been really interesting. So there is a lot of discussion around that, and there's no kind of, again, easy answer, but it starts with individuals, who kind of take up the call and decide that it's worth it. It starts with leadership and culture of organizations who want to kind of build that in. I feel it remains like critical to ensuring that we continue to grow and prosper as a sector, and that this leadership, yes, it comes from within, and that it is consistent and kind of repeatable and shareable outwards. So thank you both for giving me your thoughts on that.
One thing I'm just going to add, Lisa, the need is huge.
God, it's huge.
You talk, and I get over the years, I've talked to hundreds, thousands of usually younger fundraisers or ones with medium experience, and they are hungry for this, and because they latch on to me and what I have to say. And Ed knows this. He's told me the same stories. We have a client, and we're supposed to be doing something about not about coaching, and all we do is coach.
Yeah.
So you're right on with the topic.
Yeah, and I'll leave before we take another break. Ken, I don't know if there's another part of dinner you need to prepare, but Sandra gives just a sampling of areas where a coach can support organizational success and an employee's goal achievement. And I'm just going to leave with a few of these for food for thought as we go to break. So here's areas where coaching can help. It can help with amalgamations and mergers. It can help with movement into a new or an interim role. It can help with restructuring of departments, and it can help with accelerating learning on a new area of accountability. These are all things that happen in the regular course of events for fundraisers at every single level. So in case there's someone listening who's thinking, yeah, but we don't need that. We don't have time for that. I don't think any organization has time to ignore it and ignore the need. So that would be my parting shot. Okay, let's take another break. We are chatty today, guys. So we have one more segment that Ed is going to lead for us, and it's social media. So it's going to be juicy. Let's take a break and we'll come right back. All right, here we go. Final segment. You know, this interested me when you said this was your topic, and you called it the influencer effect. Let's, dive right in and tell us what are you thinking about there?
So I think this actually is really relevant. And Lisa, I know how much you like through threads that
I
lead
do. I
everything
just want everything tied together.
so nice. And you can tell you come from a narrative world, a narrative background. And so does Ken. I think we all three come from a narrative background. So we
Yeah.
like this.
Tell me a
Fact
story.
is, we talked a lot about AI, or this kind of the reality of digital activity within our lives. We talked about mentorship and stresses. And the fact is that what we're seeing now is the rise of influencers in this space. I think fundraising is a really interesting world, right? Because I often say we're always 15 years behind the times, right? We are always doing things a little bit off in that way. That's fine. We're strapped with resources and things like that. But what's happened now, you're seeing it more and more, are influencers, quote unquote, big, and I mean influencer in the way we think of TikTok, other social media platforms, LinkedIn included, people out there leading the charge on trying to, and a lot of times succeeding at, framing the conversation. And, our whole goal of this podcast is to be real about these things. And part of it in week one is about this common knowledge, right? And we're building off of this. And here come these disruptors who are pushing things around and breaking things to a certain degree, as disruptors will, and doing that I'm not going to presuppose what their wishes are or their hopes are in the end, but it's just causing a lot of anxiety, stresses, and not making the lives of fundraisers and fundraising in the country any better right now. I think that we have to be really careful about who we see as leaders, because the primary thing that influencers want to do is be seen as leaders in our sector. And I'm not going to call any individual one of them out, because it's not something we want to do. But what we do see is people questioning right now, leaders, influencers, questioning whether fundraising has a history. Sorry, not a history, but a future. We have a history. Maybe we are history. They're coming up with incredibly negative notions of what we do and how we do things, or they're scaring people to death about where they are and how they're lagging behind, all just to advance themselves. And that's not what we do in this sector. And this might sound, very, what's the right term, precious in terms of the way that I approach this, but we're doing something that, let's face facts, guys, working in the not-for-profit sector is beyond simply a vocation. It's a necessity, right? And we can't have the same disruptive forces through influencers, or at least we can't take the same notice of them, right? And so I'm really concerned about the rise. I think we stayed away from it for a lot of years. We stayed away from, I don't want to call them bad actors unless they push me, but the reality is,
don't get on Ed's bad side.
They're not necessarily helping out. Everything we just said, the overwork, the misplaced stresses, the feeling of disillusionment, people leaving the sector. This is not helping. Now, I'm not chastising. What I'm saying to everyone else is just be aware. What's being said? How's it being said? Who's it being said by? Just do some basic research when you look at someone online. Now, I think our group, in terms of fundraisers, are really good at it. One of the things I do know right now is when I look at influencers and they post one place or another, who's responding? Other influencers. People like me, I say it, other consultants. You don't see fundraisers responding a lot. Why? They're busy raising money. They don't really have a lot of time, right? I get it. But I'm just concerned right now. This is a very critical and delicate time in this sector. And I just want to make sure, guys out there, be aware. Remember, be good consumers of information. And good consumers read the label. They do their market studies. They compare and contrast and find the right folks. And this goes right to coaching, because influencers are de facto coaches into the marketplace, whether we like it or not, whether we believe they are or not. They're helping to set our particular feeling about how we're doing things. And we want to make sure that that's actually helpful rather than something that's causing more stress and leading to more difficult times for our folks. So that's my thought about this. And I know, Ken, you and I over the years have often sat over a beer or a coffee and talked at length about some of these people who are coming up with not necessarily productive engagement, but counterproductive or almost negative engagement for their own ends. And we've talked about it at length. We're in a kind of tipping point where this could go really badly, really quickly.
Yeah, and it's reflective of society as a whole. So, and we don't have to get into that. But I do something now automatically. Whenever I get a message through various means, I say, what are they trying to sell me? Because everyone who's posting something somewhere is trying to sell me something. And maybe it's their own self-worth. That could be. But there's always a motive behind it. And it may be a legitimate motive. I've done it, so and that's fine. But always ask that question: what are they trying to sell me?
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
So yeah, it's influencer culture in general. I find is just a bit of a challenge. I have a 19 and a 21-year-old. And they're the ones who are educating me about a lot of kind of what's happening on the social media channels. I don't even have a TikTok account. I don't belong on there. I know that, and that is fine. But I do find it interesting how some of these things bleed over into channels like TikTok and some of the other ones where I would expect it only to be found more on the Twitter, Blue Sky kind of, LinkedIn, more whatever the professional kind of, areas are. But yeah, I just, I really would like to I would like a little bit more of that critical thinking, buyer beware. It goes back to this whole argument right now of what is the truth, who are our leaders, who are we listening to. I'm going to circle back to where we began as we to kind of tidy this off, because this is what I do. I'm going to bring it back to that whole idea that I think if people are wanting to glean information, if they're really wanting to understand their craft, if they're wanting to understand how to get into fundraising, if they're wanting to understand what it means to be a mentor or to be a mentee, the best thing they could do is pick up the phone and call and talk and have a conversation. Any of these broadcasting channels, social media, it's all one way. It's all, giver and receiver. It's not intercommunication. It's not two-way. You need to have a personal connection, to have a real conversation, to glean real understanding. And it starts with small talk and it goes deeper from there. And then you can get into some of the more gnarly, complex ideas and issues. But I would just really hope that when people are looking for information, when they're looking for thought leaders, when they're looking for the current status of our sector, they're going to go to kind of more knowledgeable sources They're going to reach out to people. They're going to have conversations. They're going to refer to reputable media channels like Hillborn Charity E-News. They're going to check in with Imagine Canada. They're going to like check out the Walrus, like wherever you like your information. But social media, TikTok, as a way to get that information, I don't think it's going to get people where they want to be. So valid point. So how we want to wrap up our episodes is, as we've mentioned, things can get a bit grumpy here sometimes, but we want to give credit where credit's due. We want to be charitable as well, and just give a nod to some good things, some positive things that we're seeing out there. And that's where we're going to end it today. Ken, you started it. Do you want to lead us off with your comment? And
Absolutely. And it was just a phone call I got, and a woman called me, and and she had a kind of she was from another country. It was in her language, in her name, and she had worked for the federal government, and she, for whatever reason, had stopped doing that. She was from Ottawa, and she called me because she read a book I'd written, and she wanted to talk to me about fundraising, and she was desperately interested in going into fundraising and see how she fit into it because of the most idealistic principles of fundraising, which is using the goodwill of people to better society. And she was dedicated to that. And I spoke for an hour, and then she called me back last week, and we had another long conversation. And she was asking all the right questions. And I thought, gee, if this person, very thoughtful, very intelligent, and wanting to get into our profession for all the right reasons, and there can't be anything more hopeful than that.
agreed. Ed.
Well, let's be charitable here for a minute. And those of you who have ever seen some of the things I've written for the great publication that Lisa is the editor of, donor advised funds. I have lots of things to say about donor advised funds. Many of them are grumpy, as Lisa alluded to earlier. But the reality is, and you can go back and read them. But let's be charitable for a minute about it. And that is, they are getting some people who do not have charitable intentions to make charitable contributions. Okay, so that's a good thing. And so I know that that's often missed in some of the other back and forth. And also some of the self-congratulatory activities of the donor advised funds folks, some of the fear that's happening from the charity side, not-for-profit side. The reality is, let's be charitable about the whole thing. They're bringing more people into making donations. That's good. At some point in the future, the three of us here are going to talk about all the negatives. But for today, let's be charitable.
I like your positive attitude, Ed. And I'm going to finish off with a shout out to the small shop fundraisers. I joined a small charity board here in the community of Westboro, Ottawa last year for the Kitchissippi Winter Trail. It's a multi-purpose trail. I'm a cross-country skier. I've been using this trail since I came in. And I wanted to get more involved in my community and give back. And I have been reminded over the last year about the hard work and passion and laughter and sometimes tears and exhaustion that go into some of these small grassroots organizations, working boards, trying to make something, in this case, winter in Ottawa, more pleasant for the people who live here. And I'm just here to give a cheer and a hoorah for all of the small charities doing the hard work with very little resources and really moving the needle, making a difference, making people happy, healthy, and feeling part of a community. So that's my let's be charitable to all those little guys out there, and carry on the good work.
Yeah, having been on one of those boards and worked with them, they're great. They're really, that's the charitable world. So good for you.
It is. It reminds you everything that, again, is good about this sector and what we do.
You bet.
All right, you've been listening to Let's Get Real, Canadian Perspective on Fundraising. I have been joined by Ed Sluga, Ken Ramsey. I'm Lisa McDonald. Thank you for listening to our discussion. We look forward to your comments, questions, feedback. You can find us on, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. And thank you to our producer, Jody Barron Sluga. Until next time, we look forward to speaking with you again.